Hello and welcome everyone. It's our pleasure to have you all here. Thank you for participating in our second webinar to share information and knowledge on the way to Tokyo. My name is Shiran Habekost and I will be your host today as we discuss World Skates Competition Rules 2021. We believe that aligning us with organized skateboarding, that sharing information and knowledge, learning from the best and from best practices and our collective experience is the best way to move the sport of skateboarding forward as we present it to the world on the Olympic stage. This webinar aims to deep dive into the 2021 competition rule. As we get ready to re-enter the competition and finish the qualification process for Tokyo, it has never been more important for us all to have a deep, true understanding of the rules. And yes, being in an Olympic year, there will be more related topics to discuss in the future webinars to come. Skateboarding's first time ever on the Olympic stage is just around the corner. Stay tuned, we won't stop and let's discuss. But enough from my side. Let me introduce you to our today's guest. First of all, Paula Contarino, representing World Skates Sports Department. Say hello.
Hi, Dan. How are you doing?
Where are you at right now? Can you hear me, Paula? Where are you?
Yes, hi. I'm in Buenos Aires right now.
Nice. How's the weather? Everything fine?
Yes, the sun is shining, so everything's
really nice.
Yes.
Amelia Brodka, well known for being out in park skateboarding, putting down some gnarly and tech whenever she has been skating around. Right now, she's here with us. Hi, Amelia.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good. And you?
Great, thank you so much for having me a part of the webinar.
Very welcome, it's our pleasure. Matt Milligan, back here known for skateboarding style and being a head judge for ages.
Hi there, how are you?
Pretty good, thank you. Where are you right now?
I'm in Portland, Oregon, and hoping to go skate in a couple hours when we're finished with this webinar.
Nice to know. Martin Karash, no more words needed, I guess.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here again.
Very welcome. So let's have a deep dive. Hope you can see this, and this is what we are talking all about today. First of all, this is the agenda. World Skate is a governing body for sports of skateboarding. First topic, athlete categories explained. National team manager, helmet rule, pre-competition procedures, competition practice, competition formats, scoring regulations, competition-related situation and procedures, event schedules and alterations, contingency situations, event validation request, and at the end, we will take a look if we can have some Q&As. So, Martin, it's up to you.
All right, thank you, Shiran. Hello, everyone. My name is Martin, and tonight I'm here again to speak on behalf of World Skate as International Federation. To start off, I would like to provide you with some information on the history of the competition rules and their evolution until today. We have already mentioned the history and goals of World Skate during our first webinar on the judging criteria. Therefore, I will only do a short recap today, and I will suggest you to watch the first webinar's recording that is posted on the World Skate blog. Please see it. It will provide you with a lot of information, not only on mechanics, computation of scores, but other related information for World Skate history and the evolution of rules and judging criteria and everything around it. But as I said before, World Skate is the official governing body for the sport of skateboarding, an organization that is recognized by the International Olympic Committee to coordinate and conduct all affairs related with skateboarding under the newly achieved Olympic sport status. In the year 2018, World Skate took the initiative and hosted an international summit of global skateboard judges, field experts, and event promoters to consolidate the first general rules and standards used in skateboarding. Among the participants were representatives from Vans Park Series, Street League Skateboarding, U-Tour, Japanese European Open, and many others. Rules that were put together were rules unifying competition standards with event formats and scoring system requirements for all sanctioned events around the world. I will emphasize that these rules are being used on World Skate sanctioned events. World Skate does not impose or force their use to promoters coming from the private sector or on non-sanctioned events. And back to the competition rules. So the first edition of the competition rules was born on Nanjing 2018 summit and later applied to the events of the Tokyo Olympic qualification season in 2019. The second and improved edition was released after the 2019 ISJC summit in Rio de Janeiro and applied for the first time to the STU event there. We have learned a lot from all the challenges and requirements that arose during the rainy week in Rio. And this was a strong impulse for grouping with the ISJC members again, but also include the Athlete Commission representatives and contemplate what was needed to be done next for further improvements. Some necessary additions were needed and some specific adjustments to the already existing rules and regulations too. All this was done to create a set of rules that corresponds with the evolution, the needs, and requirements of the global competition environment, and most of all, with the needs of the athletes who participate in them. The third edition of the World Skateboarding Rules for competitions came from this fruitful cooperation between World Skate global judges, event promoters, and athletes. Athletes who shared their vision, professional expertise, and ideas with us. For World Skate, athletes are the most important part. We want them to feel comfortable and respected at our events. So let's dive into the third edition of the World Skate competition rules all together now. Thank you very much, Shiran.
Thank you, Martin. Nice for highlighting out again. And yes, you will find a lot of information on all these blogs and webinars. Let's deep dive into the next topic. Paul, can you highlight us on athlete categories well explained by you?
Shiran, sure, thank you. And thanks everyone for being here. So let's get into this. As you know, there are many skateboarders at each event. They travel together with their peers, managers, or personnel who take care of them and help them to perform in the competitions. Athletes and their team managers are coming from different countries and cultures. Sometimes the athletes represent another country than they live in, and so on. Although we are all unique in a certain way, we have a few things in common when at the sanctioned events. Besides the love and passion for skateboarding, what unites us all at these events are the responsibilities and duties to follow the registration procedures, participation protocols, along with the acceptance and obedience of the valid competition rules. All sanctioned events must follow the criteria set by the IOC and applied by World Skate to carry out and coordinate this process. It is to provide a fair and equal competition environment for all athletes who are there to represent their respectable nations. The Olympic qualification season events are not open to all skateboarders for participation. Only certain categories of athletes are eligible to participate. Participation is possible only after meeting a set of criteria and only through the World Skate Sports entry platform, to which only national federations affiliated to World Skate can access. It is also important to be aware of these criteria and understand how they actually work. It is also good to understand the regulations and principles behind. Now, let's try to explain some of the nuances and details for you to know and understand them better. We have different categories of athletes. We have country quota athletes, which are skaters who enter the competition by being registered by a national governing body or the national federation. Only a certain number of athletes can be registered by each NGB for each event, and these are the so-called country quota athletes in World Skate bulletins. Country quota athletes must be registered by the NGBs through the World Skate Sports entry platform. We also have the extra quota athletes, which are the top 30 athletes ranked in the Olympic World Skateboarding ranking for each discipline and category. They are entitled to compete in the event without counting against their NGB country quota. The NGB must confirm their participation, but must not register them in the platform. We have the pre-seeded athletes, who are those who have gained access to an advanced phase of the competition because of their standing in the ranking. Pre-seeded athletes don't count against the relevant NGB country quota. The listing of pre-seeded athletes is published in a World Skate Bulletin, and as the extra quota athletes, they do not need to be registered in the platform, but their NGB of belonging must confirm their participation via email. Then we also have the wildcard athletes. The status of a wildcard athlete is granted at World Skate discretion and is limited to these cases: lack of an existing and recognized NGB in the country of athlete's origin, host country citizenship, maximum 2 per gender, and event organizer wildcard, maximum 2 per gender. Now let's talk a little bit about the responsibilities that all these athletes have to follow in order to participate at World Skate events. If you're a skater and you're watching this, just don't worry, you've been part of this. There is nothing new. As already mentioned, all athletes must be affiliated to a World Skate recognized NGB or being granted a wildcard status by World Skate. All athletes must upload a valid anti-doping training course certificate in the platform. They must abide by the World Skate rules and regulations, must wear the wristbands accreditation badge at all times when they are not skating, follow the World Skate competition rules, attend riders meeting, be on time for their scheduled check-ins, attend the official practice following the official schedule released by World Skate, avoid interfering in any way with the progress of the competition, respect the jury's judgment, follow and abide the World Skate concussion protocol, be aware of their surroundings at all times while in the skate park in order to avoid collisions through the whole practice and competition time. Wearing headphones during the official practice and competition isn't recommended, and at the discretion of the technical delegate for safety reasons, skaters can be required to stop using headphones. Now let's explain the nationality status. All athletes entering World Skate official events represent the country of their sport's nationality. Athletes shall compete under the responsibility of the skateboarding NGB recognized by the World Skate in their country. This means that the NGB shall be responsible for all athletes representing the country concerned in terms of assistance, payment of the registration fee, insurance, possible complaints, issues, injuries, and whatsoever the athlete can incur into. Wildcard athletes, and they will represent their country without being part of a national team. When checking in on site, they will be required to nominate a support contact person that must be available at the competition venue every day if possible. The support contact person will have the same tasks and responsibilities as a team manager. And now for the national team. A national team is a team that represents a nation during a competition, and it's comprised of one national team manager per discipline, all national technical officials, and or support staff registered to access the competition venue, such as medical support, coaches, and team managers as per World Skate instructions, and all competitors of the same nationality. Each national team must register in the platform and confirm the appointment of a national team manager per discipline during the on-site accreditation process. This must be confirmed to the World Skate Competition Secretary before any of the national team athletes start participating or competing. The national team manager bears the following responsibilities for the entire duration of the event. Represent the NGB and national team members in their relationships with the LOC and WorldSkate. Ensure athletes, NTOs, and support staff read and understand competition rules and abide by all WorldSkate rules and regulations. Make sure athletes and staff have the latest information about the competition. Assist and tutor under his or her responsibility national team members in case of injury or illness. Represent athletes and team members during riders meeting and any other event meetings if they cannot attend. And that's it for the national team manager. Shiran.
Thank you, Paula. Wow, what a lot of information. This is like, I think, a plain outlook on what nations and duties are. So thank you a lot for that one. Okay, let's go over to Martin and let us hear what it's all about. The next topic, the helmet rules. Martin, can you give us some highlights, please?
Yes, Shiran, thank you very much. I would start this topic with a simple quote. Safety is an essential aspect for world skate. And we must make sure that our athletes are not exposed to any dispensable risk and dangers while they practice or compete. This is like our alpha omega. And as you know, competition environment may generate situations where even the best athletes are not exempt from the potential threat of sustaining an injury or the consequences of it. At the end of the day, it is skateboarding that we are doing, and accidents can happen here. Creating a set of competition rules that minimize or prevent risks and hazardous situations from their occurrence is our goal. This goal aims not to limit or ban anyone from skateboarding as they want in any case. It is to prevent human tragedies from happening, show solidarity with others, and allow athletes and their supporting staff to enjoy events all together. The World Skate approach can be described and defined in three simple areas. First, prevention and preemptive precautions within the regulation process. Second, creation of a safe environment with applied regulations for a safe practice of the sport. And third, provision of a constant and professional medical care at all events. Now, I will try my best to describe them to you. So follow me on this one. Wearing a protective gear, especially the skateboard helmets, has been a long discussed and controversial subject. For some, it is a matter of style. For others, it is a matter of skaters' pride or being gnarly and pushing the limits of their own selves or skateboarding in general. But for someone else, it is absolutely normal. World Skate simply cannot allow athletes to compete in an unsafe environment and without trying our best to prevent injuries from happening to them. This is the area where we, as an international federation, must act proactively. Therefore, and as one of the main preemptive precautions, we have the helmet rule. We have consulted with medical professionals and authorities, as well as with the members of the Athlete Commission before approving and applying this rule. I will emphasize one important thing. Wearing a helmet or other protective gear will not affect your evaluation by the judges. It has no effect on your scores. There is no penalization and there is no shame in wearing a helmet or other protective gear. Please keep this in mind. So here's the helmet rule. Wearing a helmet is mandatory for all athletes under the age of 18 in the street discipline. In the park discipline, it is mandatory for all athletes at all times. And now, Let's move to the recommendations for the right helmet. Application of the helmet rule brings the question of how to choose the right helmet, and the question if there is a right helmet for skateboarding. As of now, there is no global regulation on this matter. Every country has its own safety and homologation regulations applied. In some countries, they are very strict, but in some other countries, they might be more benevolent. This creates a situation where some helmet manufacturers on the global market are advertising and distributing products without the necessary safety features or qualities. The final decision and responsibility on which helmet to choose are left to the athletes and their legal guardians, provided that the helmet has all of these characteristics. Cranial coverage and security are guaranteed by a one-piece hard shell cradling the occipital. A hard or soft internal padding guarantees impact absorption. And a chin strap with buckle lock must be available. We suggest you to consult with the specialist and choose a helmet that provides these standards and following the rules that are stated in the World Skate Competition rules. We don't limit any manufacturers. We don't limit any style. We just suggest and recommend the features for the right helmet that is safe and provide all these qualities. Now, what was the reasons behind? One of the main reasons behind the implementation of the helmet rule to the World Skate Competition rules is to prevent head injuries in general. One of them is concussion. Concussion is a tricky and very serious injury. So let's look into what concussion is. A concussion is an injury to the brain that results in a temporary loss of normal brain functions. Medically, it is defined as a clinical syndrome characterized by immediate and transient alteration in brain function, including alteration of mental status or level of consciousness that results from mechanical force or trauma. Concussions can be caused by direct trauma to the head, such as from falling, getting hit, or being in an accident. They can also occur as a result of a rapid acceleration or deceleration of the head, such as in whiplash injuries or blast injuries, just like in a war zone. Many people assume that concussions involve passing out or a loss of consciousness, but this is not true. In many cases, people with a concussion never lose consciousness. In several cases, external signs of head trauma, such as bleeding, may also be absent. And concussion can affect memory, judgment, reflexes, speech, balance, and muscle coordination. People with concussion often report a brief period of amnesia or forgetfulness, where they cannot remember what happened immediately before or after the injury. They may act confused, dazed, or describe seeing stars. Paramedics and athletic trainers who suspect a person has suffered a concussion may ask this injured person if they know their name, what month, year it is, and where they are, just to check. Even mild concussions should be taken lightly. There is no such thing as a minor concussion. In most cases, a single concussion should not cause permanent damage. A second concussion after the first one doesn't have to be very strong for its effects to be permanently disabling. World Skate will do its utmost best to prevent concussions from happening to any of our athletes. However, they can still happen, and hence we have applied the World Skate concussion protocol. So how does this protocol work? World Skate will appoint a concussion coordinator for each event, who will be responsible for ensuring the athlete is removed from the practice or competition, and it's appropriately monitored and managed. The concussion coordinator is an independent medical professional and has the ultimate authority in determining whether or not an athlete has sustained a concussion. I will repeat, it is the concussion coordinator, medical professional. No one from World Skate has the authority or competence to make a diagnosis in this field. It is the medical professional who makes the decision. Once again, I will repeat what are the common symptoms of a concussion: confusion, headache, vision disturbances, double or blurry vision, dizziness or imbalance, nausea or vomiting, memory loss, ringing ears, difficulty concentrating, sensitivity to light, loss of smell or taste, sometimes even trouble falling asleep. Many skaters who experience concussion know what I'm talking about. It is very serious and it should not be taken lightly. So how does the concussion protocol procedure work? It is as following. Step number 1, sustaining a head injury. This means that an athlete has a collision or other incident. Step number 2, medical examination. This means that athlete is examined by the medical professional, the concussion coordinator. Step number, medical evaluation. This medical professional, concussion coordinator, establishes the diagnosis. Step number 4, medical report and decision. The medical professional composes a report with recommendations for athlete treatment and further actions. And step number 5, technical delegates announcement. We have to go public with it and make it official and record this protocol. So that's it for the concussion protocol and the helmet rules. Thank you very much, Shiran. I will pass the floor back to you.
Thanks, Martin. So always in mind, safety first and athletes first. Thanks for this one. So now we know a lot more about the concussion protocol and the helmet rules and what this is all about. And I think we agree on the fact that safety is king in this discipline, since we all had some injuries skating. So Paula, it's up to you. Highlight us on the competition check-in.
Sure, Shiran. So let's imagine it is the first morning at the event. Registration opens up and immediately we start to see athletes, manager, parents, and other people trying to get in the venue or event area. You begin to feel the tension and despair of some. Some are trying to find a pen, passport, or a voucher to each lunch. Others want to be listed under their artistic pseudonyms or stage names. A national team manager wants event passes for an athlete who is somehow missing in action since the time of yesterday's dinner. The competition secretary is trying to explain the procedure, but the team manager wants to put the athlete in another competition heat later on that day. Announcer, judging panel, and the whole venue are desperately looking for this athlete who has advanced from the qualification round, but is nowhere to be found now. The microphone announcement goes on repeat, and everyone is waiting. Time passes by, and there are gray heavy clouds on the horizon. Does this sound familiar to you? Well, we must do our best to prevent these situations. It's the teamwork, mutual support, and cooperation that makes a successful event. So let's look into the helping steps that are needed to avoid these situations, please. Event registration is the first step of the procedure to enter a competition. As we have explained, the registration must be done online within the registration time window published in the bulletins by the national federations. The event check-in is a time-limited and in-venue procedure that confirms an athlete's participation in the competition. It can be fulfilled by the athletes or preferably performed by the national team manager. Only after completion of the event check-in, the athlete will be added to the competition start list and allocated with a practice and competition slot. This has to be done at the registration office upon the arrival at the venue or before the check-in deadline given to preceded athletes by athletes or national team managers. We also have competition check-in. which is a field of play procedure to be completed in order to athletes to confirm their presence and participation in the competition round. Athletes check in to the course manager. This procedure must be completed at each competition round. Only after this competition check-in, athletes are allowed to access the competition warm-up and compete. Only checked-in athletes are technically considered as competitors in the specific competition phase and are eligible to be awarded points for the event accordingly to their final ranking. So this has to be done at the field of play before each competition phase or round by athletes only. Athletes withdrawal or replacement. Athletes can withdraw from the event for any reason before the competition check-in. The withdrawal must be notified to the technical delegate directly or through the competition secretary in a written note form. A withdrawal note must be signed by either the withdrawing athlete or the national team manager. Replacements are possible only for quarterfinal and semifinal. Replacements are not allowed for the final round of competition. This has to be done at the registration office before the competition check-in by the athlete or the national team manager. Thank you, and that was it for the pre-competition and competition procedures. Shiran.
Thank you, Paula. So now we have an idea what and how the next steps work in our competitions after we learned a lot from the past. But talking about past, what is this all about? Have you any experience calling Amelia?
Hello, and
Hello.
I'm happy to be here today. I'm here because I'm a part of the Athlete Commission, and I myself have 14 years of experience competing in skateboarding events, from X Games to World Cup events to Vans Park Series, and 9 years of experience running events with exposure. And so I'm here to talk about some changes that have happened with competition practice.
Tell us. We have seen World Skate is preparing some procedures, but where do we came from? How do you embrace the whole thing?
Well, so the Athlete Commission started working more in depth with World Skate after the Rio event, and it's comprised of Alexis Sablone, Manny Santiago, Ben Hatchell, and Letitia Buffoni. And then we have 13 other members of our Athlete Commission working group.
So is it only all about these things, or what are you working there in this Athlete Commission? What is all the topics? What is happening there?
So we've had the opportunity to talk to World Skate about many issues that we've seen in past events, whether it's talking about the rules or the formats or the judging, but a particular sticking point has been the practices. The practices, especially in park, have been pretty much dangerous. Everybody's going at once. There's a very short window of time in most practices, and it's just been generally really hectic and just an issue for a lot of the skaters. So we're grateful that we got to talk to World Skate about this, and there are going to be some changes in practices. There's going to be an extra practice day, and there's also going to be now ordered jam practice for park format. And now we have limits as to how many skaters can be in a practice, and a minimum time that needs to be met. So we are excited for the next event to see how these changes are going to be put in place.
Whoa, great. So that sounds like a lot of organization behind the desk, but sounds better for you actually as an athlete. And the Athlete Commission is stopped, or is anything happen in the future?
We have been consistently involved with just speaking to World Skate about upcoming events and changes. So we're grateful to give our 2 cents and help make everything better for the skaters competing.
Perfect. We're looking forward to work with you. Thanks, Amelia. So let's get into the competition practice. Martin, do you hear us? So can you tell us a little bit about the competition practice, please?
Yes, Shiran, thank you very much. Thank you, Amelia, for being here with us today. It's been great and it's been a pleasure working with you, not only for the events, but in general. And thank you again for being here with us today. I will now dive to the competition practice. So as a skater and for all skaters, if the conditions are not right, practice can be a very stressful time for any athlete. Every athlete probably has at least one experience from an event where practice was just open to all skaters at once. It's a battle for your right to skate, but also to survive without hurting yourself or causing an injury to somebody else. Practice times like these are being commonly used at skateboard events. Usually, they are the result of a limited time provided for practice in the event schedule or caused by a high number of participating athletes. Sometimes, both of these factors are combined. World Skate learned from the history and together with the event promoters and members of the Athletes Commission provided minimum requirements for practice time along with the regulations on how to compose the practice groups and schedule the heats. This is to provide a fair, equal, and safe environment to all participating athletes with guaranteed minimum times for their event preparation. So, I would say, and that's important information in the beginning, WorldSkate publishes bulletins that provide information and details on each upcoming event. Bulletins also include the information on the scheduling of the event. First, only as a tentative breakdown of the practice and competition days. And please remember that this is just the first version of the schedule and it's only tentative until the registration is closed. Therefore, changes may be applied. Only after the registration is closed, it is possible to estimate the total number of athletes coming to the event and schedule practice and competition groups more precisely. When the schedule for an upcoming event is being composed, WorldSkate and its event partners and promoters guarantee to provide the athletes with these criteria related to time, size, and access to the practice group. Number one, a minimum of 120 minutes of practice prior to the beginning of a competition. This time, 120 minutes, can be divided into parts and slotted in the dedicated parts of the event. Number two, minimum duration of a single pre-competition practice session shall not be shorter than 45 minutes. This is because a minimum time is needed for each athlete to practice and prepare a strategy for the later competition. Please note that a competition practice is not the same as the competition warm-up. Competition warm-up is competition time. That warm-up might be therefore shorter. During competition practice, only registered athletes may access the course or the field of play. This is to guarantee the maximum safety and enough time to each athlete within the competition practice heat. Athletes who will violate this regulation of the WorldSkate competition rules might be sanctioned by the technical delegate or, when done repeatedly, disqualified from the event. Please keep in your mind, everybody who's gonna skate the contest will have his or her practice time that is guaranteed with those times and minimum limits. So please don't sneak in, don't jump into someone else's practice. It is not fair and you should show solidarity. You will have your own time. Number four, practice groups in the normal non-COVID event regime should not exceed a maximum of 12 athletes in park discipline and a maximum of 20 athletes in the street discipline. COVID regulations that are being currently applied on the upcoming Olympic qualification events are going to be communicated and published within the related bulletins and during the dedicated writers meeting as a conference call format with recorded video. We will publish this video. The upcoming writers meeting for a due tour event is scheduled for April the 30th. Please register yourself. Information has been sent out to all athletes and their respectable NGBs. WorldSkate is also applying further criteria when defining the practice groups. These criteria can be applied depending on the skate park design, because size and structure of the FOP has an effect on the maximum number of athletes per practice group. Also, we consider discipline, because street and park discipline have their specifics when it comes to athletes practicing together and their safety on the FOP. Schedule constraints is one of the criteria we also consider. Every event takes place in a location with the specific geographical conditions, event logistics, legal regulations, and available permits. And that makes a difference because it provides us with an available time frame for the event schedule, and we cannot go over usually. The last thing, but not least, we of course consider gender. WorldSkate pays attention to the gender needs and follows the regulations and medical recommendation on the maximum capacities for each gender group. Now, I will talk about the practice group start order. After a reevaluation of our previous experiences and thorough discussion with the athletes commissioners, practice groups are also defined based on the WSR ranking standing. This means that athletes will start in the reverse mode of their ranking order. This is to limit the risks of collisions or unintentional locking of obstacles and field of play pathways during the practice. We just want you to optimize the time to the maximum and not stand in anyone's way or feel intimidated by others. This is the reason behind it. We also consider age groups, and this is again for safety and prevention of potential injuries from collisions between athletes of different size, age, abilities, and weight proportions. This is very important, especially in the park discipline. Athletes in the pre-competition practice, especially athletes in the park discipline, must skate individually. No group or synchronized skating is allowed. Please keep it in mind. There are maximum time limits for athletes after each dropping in. Athletes must not occupy the FOP for more time than the full time of the competition run, and once the time expires or the athlete falls, they must leave the FOP immediately. Don't block, don't waste time of the others. You will be in the line next. The event course manager will be there to conduct all practice sessions. If a pre-competition session rules are being violated by any athlete, the technical delegate may intervene and address this breach of competition rules accordingly. First as a warning, and then, if not respected, with more severe consequences. So please be respectful, look out for each other, and stay safe, guys. This is for the competition format practice, and I will pass the floor back to you, Shiran. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. So now we know a lot of rules and things that are coming up, but we need to know better for what it's coming up. So Matt, can you enlighten us on competition formats? What are we gonna see?
Yeah, thanks, Shiran. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be back and continue with WorldSkate's skateboarding transfer of knowledge. I will now dive into different competition formats that are used for the park and street disciplines at WorldSkate sanctioned events. Whichever discipline skaters are competing in, they will be able to freely choose the type of tricks they want to execute and on which obstacle they want to use. In the run format, skaters will skate the course solo for a set amount of time or until they fall. The latter refers to park discipline only. In the jam format, skaters will skate the course in groups of 2 for a set amount of time. During the street single trick attempts, skaters perform their trick solo on the course with complete freedom to choose the trick and obstacle to skate. Now let's jump into a little more detail regarding the park formats. Park competitions must apply the run format for every competition round. Skaters will be able to freely choose the type of tricks they want to do, as well as which obstacle they want to do them on. All skaters will take a minimum of 2 and up to a maximum of 4 runs that will range between 30 to 50 seconds. The time depends on the overall number of skaters competing, as well as the size and layout of the park. Time of runs and amount of runs can be adjusted to fit scheduling based on these circumstances. The length of runs will be communicated with the registration information ahead of each competition. In qualifier rounds, skaters can bail or fall and still continue their run for the entire allowed amount of time per run. In semifinal and final rounds, the run is over once the skater bails or at the end of the allowed amount of time per run. Quarterfinals may be added for specific events such as the World Championships. They will be a run format until you fall or at the end of the allowed amount of time per run. Each skater takes a run ranging between 2 and 4 runs, as mentioned earlier, and then 5 judges will use a 0 to 100 point scale, and each judge will individually submit scores after every run based on their overall impression of that run. The highest and the lowest scores from the judging panel after every run will get dropped, and the remaining 3 scores are then averaged together. The best run scored between the 2 to 4 runs will be that skater's final score and counts for the final ranking position in that round. Now let's jump into the street formats. Street competitions may be run in a variety of different formats that can be applied across different competition rounds. I will highlight the different formats that can be used within World Skate street competitions. The formats that World Skate currently uses for all Olympic qualifying events have been tested in previous competitions and approved by the athlete committee. We are constantly looking for possible ways to improve contests and progress the nature of competitive skateboarding, and we will always involve the skaters in any decisions that could be made regarding competitions. The run format in street. In the run format, each skater will skate a minimum of 2 runs and up to a maximum of 3 runs. Each run will be 45 to 60 seconds long. Exact length of time is determined based on the size and layout of the course. The length of runs will be communicated with the registration information ahead of every competition. After each skater takes a run, ranging between 2 and 3 runs as mentioned earlier, 5 judges will use a 0 to 100 point scale, and each judge will individually submit scores after every run based on their overall impression of that run. The highest and the lowest scores from the judging panel after every run will get dropped, and the remaining 3 scores are then averaged together. The best run scored between the 2 to 3 runs is taken and will be that skater's final score and count for the final ranking position of that round. The jam session format in street. In the jam session format, skaters will compete in a 2-rider jam session for a set time of 2 minutes. This means that 2 skaters will use the entire course at the same time as each other. After each jam session, 5 judges will use a 0 to 100 point scale, and each judge will individually submit scores after every jam for each skater based off their overall impression of that jam. The high and low scores are then dropped, and the remaining 3 scores are averaged together. This score will be that skater's final score and count for the final ranking position in that round. The scores in jam sessions are not published until the completion of all jams. In the Olympic Street 2-5-4 format. In the 2-5-4 format, each skater will perform 2 runs of 45 seconds each, followed by 5 single trick attempts. The top 4 scores from all 7 attempts are added together, and that is each skater's overall score. Each skater in a competition round performs a single run or trick attempt at a time. The next skater follows them in the heat starting order. This continues until all skaters finish their 2 runs and 5 individual trick attempts. In 2-5-4 format, both of the runs and each of the 5 single tricks are judged using a point scale from 0 to 10. The highest and lowest scores for each run or trick are dropped, and the remaining 3 scores are then averaged together. Each skater is scored for each run and every single trick. Skaters will have a total of 7 scores at the end of the competition round. The best 4 scores are added together to establish the skater's overall score and ranking in each event phase. The highest possible score after the 4 best scores are added together would be 40 points. Street competitions typically have 3 separate rounds: a qualifier, a semifinal, and a final round. In qualifying rounds, run and jam formats may be used. Depending on the amount of registered skaters, either format can be applied. The format will be communicated with the registration information ahead of the competition. In semifinal rounds, runs and the 2-5-4 Olympic street format may be used. Either can be used depending on the amount of registered skaters. The format will be communicated with the registration information ahead of the competition. In final rounds, only the Olympic street 2-5-4 formats may be used. There are such circumstances where limited events such as the national championships may use runs for the final rounds. Once competition scores are approved by the head judge and published, they are final and cannot be changed. Skaters can request an explanation on judging and competition-related matters, but must follow the World Skate Clarification Protocol to do so. Individual judges' scores will not be shared under the World Skate Clarification Protocol. For all questions or concerns, skaters and National Federation officials must address their clarification requests respectfully and professionally to the World Skate ITOs and the local organizing committee. Any unprofessional or violent behavior, either physically or verbally, is unacceptable and will be evaluated by the technical delegate and may even result in the disqualification of the NTO and or the skater from the competition. So please remember that the judging panel must remain focused and engaged in the current competition. Unprofessional attempts to discard the judging panel or its members will not be tolerated by World Skate. This is to ensure that all athletes, staff, spectators, and competition organizers are able to work and compete in a fair and safe environment. Any and all disputes must follow the World Skate Clarification Protocol. Now I'm going to pass this over to my colleague Paula to explain the clarification protocol in a little more detail.
Thank you, Matt. So the clarification request protocol can only be filled in written form by using the dedicated form available at the event registration desk during the event time or online to World Skate Sports Department. It can be filled anytime during and within 24 hours from the end of the competition at the latest. It must be filled to the World Skate Competition Secretary at the event registration desk. Under no circumstance, the technical delegate, head judge, or the judges should be contacted directly, just as Matt was saying. The clarification request can be filled exclusively by the athletes or his or her legal guardian if under 18 years old, or the national team manager. In case of a clarification request filled by the national team member, the athlete or his or her legal guardian must provide consent to the filling by co-signing the form. All the clarification requests must be duly filled in all parts, providing details such as athlete's name, country or nationality, date and time of requested incident occurrence, event name, discipline, and competition phase, request description, email contact, name and role of the applicant, and signature. That's it when it comes to the clarification request. Back to you, Shiran.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Matt. So this is a lot of stuff and a lot of rules and a lot of frameworks and a lot of paperwork, but we know why we do this and to have a good contest out there, right, Martin? So, Martin, competition related procedures. Can you tell us a little bit about this topic, please?
Yes, Shiran, thank you very much again. Competition related situations and procedures. During any skateboarding event, there are situations that may seem insignificant as they happen, and nobody cares too much until the consequences arrive. This is a common perception to many athletes or even of their supporting staff. However, when being on a sanctioned event, or even more so on an Olympic qualification event, athletes must know that acting or not acting in a certain way or in a certain situation is automatically followed by applied procedures. These procedures may bring potential implications to the athletes who are involved, especially when it comes to their ranking points allocation status in this event. For example, a situation when an athlete is not showing up on time for his or her performance can happen for many reasons. Declared and verified reasons behind the situation constitute the following procedures and have a direct influence on the athlete's point allocation status. Therefore, it is important to be aware of the general rule and principle of the ranking point allocation. Athletes are awarded with their ranking points only based on their scored competition performance and its reflection in the final ranking of the event. In order to be eligible for receiving those points, an athlete must have performed and been scored at least once during the event. So that's like the basic fundamental rule for the point allocation. Please keep it in mind. Now, so what are the common and most listed procedures for athletes and their resulting event status? DNS, meaning did not start. This marking is used to refer to athletes that completed competition checking but later did not skate any of the competition runs, jam sessions, or trick attempts. DNS athletes are normally ranked at the bottom of the competition round in which they refused or were unable to skate. DNS may be also granted as a scoring mark in a case when an athlete failed to start a performance within the 5-second limit after the course manager signal to start his or her performance. The next marking is WDW, meaning withdrawal. Athletes that did the event checking but later withdrawn from the competition are going to be ranked according to the last competition round they have checked into. In order to provide more transparency and readability of the competition ranking, different types of withdrawals will be used in round results and complete results. These are withdrawn without replacement and withdrawn with replacement. In case of replacements made by the technical delegate after an athlete withdrawal, the replaced athletes will be ranked as the first in line of the non-qualified athletes of the previous competition round. If two or more athletes receive the same marking within the same competition round, they will be ranked following their placement in results from the previous competition round. If they haven't skated at all, they will be listed in order based on their WSR starting position. The next marking is AN/A, meaning not available. Athletes that did the event checking but failed to show up for the competition checking are going to be ranked according to the last competition round they have checked in. Now to the less funny one and more serious ones. DSQ, disqualified from competition due to competition rules infringement. DSQ athletes will be listed at the bottom of the event round and final event ranking. Disqualified athletes are listed in the competition results without any ranking position. The technical delegate must elaborate a disqualification record that will describe the incident and be served to the athlete, their legal guardian, or national team manager. The next one is disqualified from competition due to bad behavior. This type of disqualification and the athletes involved are listed in the competition results without a ranking position. Disqualification for bad behavior applies to the entire event. This means throughout the whole duration of the event, inside but also outside of the competition practice or competition days. It also applies to the time of 24 hours after the award ceremony or the time before the athletes depart home back from the competition. Bad behavior of athletes towards one another or towards event staff and other personnel involved in the event organization is against the very foundation of the applied Olympic values and present a violation of a sportsmanship-like behavior. Athletes must keep in mind that they are representing not only themselves, but their country. And this is very serious. Therefore, please act responsibly and professionally at all times. The technical delegate is the highest authority to evaluate and consider the severity of each individual incident and address it in the venue. Address it officially. If the incident occurs after the completion of the event and it is reported either by local authorities, other athletes, or their team staff, World Skate and technical delegate will communicate the results in a written form and via official communication channels to the NGB representatives and to the involved athletes. Disqualified athletes and preceded athletes who received this marking and didn't skate in any competition round will be listed in the round ranking with the relevant marking. Once the competition is completed, they will be listed at the bottom of the complete results without being ranked or awarded any points. I will just emphasize one thing. Please act responsibly, respect one another, and think that you are not there just for yourself, but you represent your country. This is very serious. Please keep it in mind. Now, we have just described some of the key procedures related to athletes in the event, but there are some more situations related to the competition that need to be explained. I will follow and switch to the next topic. Athletes should be aware and understand what their rights or duties are when they occur. First one of these situations is related to athletes' reaction to the course manager and subsequent behavior prior to the performance. This situation is called a presented athlete does not start a run, jam session, or a trick attempt. If an athlete, for reason other than personal health condition, does not start a run or a trick attempt within 5 seconds from the starting signal provided by the course manager, marking of DNS will be used as a score marking for the run, jam, or a single trick attempt. It is very important for athletes to cooperate with the event staff and show solidarity with other athletes. It is not a one-man show, but a competition with many other athletes waiting in line for their time to shine. Please keep it in mind. If an athlete does not put his both feet on the board in the park discipline within the time limit of 5 seconds after the course manager signal, the timekeeper will automatically start the clock and the performance begins. If an athlete obstructs or defies the signal of the course manager, the technical delegate is the authority again to address this behavior accordingly and based on its severity. Is the competition interruption during an athlete performance. Shiran, I would like to ask you, can you please switch to the next slide so the viewers can see what I'm talking about? Perfect. Thank you. Competition interruption during an athlete performance. This can happen. It is very unpleasant and unwanted, but it happens time to time. The reasons are usually something so bizarre that nobody expected it to happen, and it makes everyone surprised and wondering what just happened. Like, for example, when a spectator is falling from the bleachers into the FOP on his head, the event sound system being suddenly on fire in the judges' booth. It sounds impossible, it can happen. It can also be weather related or FOP surface related. This means when it becomes slippery beyond the acceptable limit. The competition will resume from where it was interrupted, and the interrupted athletes will be granted a restart or rerun within the same or later session of the same competition heat. Next point is the external interference during an athlete performance. In case of external interference that might compromise the athlete's performance, the technical delegate, head judge, or event director at his or her discretion can grant the athlete a restart or a rerun option. External means that it comes from the outside. We have had press photographers pointing their flashes right into the eyes of the athlete in the final round, or a security guard running through the FOP during an athlete's ongoing run performance. Even these things can happen. Situations like this are the example of external interference, and if they occur, the athlete is entitled to request a rerun. The next point is an equipment failure during athlete's run or a jam session. Equipment means a skateboard. If an equipment failure occurs during a run jam session, the athlete may try and continue with the broken or otherwise damaged equipment. The clock is not interrupted. The run is scored up until the withdrawal or till the end of the run. The athlete can be provided a replacement skateboard. The clock is not interrupted. So guys, if there is a friend who's having a board that you can ride, it is okay to change it after you broke yours. The run is scored up until the end or until you withdraw. In case the athlete stops, that's the moment where the judges put their scores. The next point is the failure of the scoring system or the clock. In case of interruption due to the timing or scoring equipment failure, the competition may be resumed using the other means of manual timing and scoring system. We have these backup plans, these backup technological devices that help us to continue if a situation like this occurs. Affected outputs will be produced as normal. In case it is not possible to continue tracking of the time after the failure, athletes can be granted a restart of their performance by the technical delegate. The next point is minor infringement to the competition rules. The World Skate technical delegate may decide to score a run or a single trick attempt with a 0, meaning 0 points. The athlete remains eligible for ranking with their other performances. Minor infringement ranges from disrespectful behavior towards the event staff, other athletes, or just by not following the competition rule or event arrangements. The technical delegate usually uses this form of penalization as a first warning to the athlete and as a clear message that this behavior is not allowed and will not be tolerated again. And if so, technical delegate may disqualify the athlete. The next point is a situation when an athlete qualified for the final event round is disqualified before the final event starts. So let's dive into this situation. If an athlete who has qualified for the final is marked with the disqualification marking before the start of the final round, the next highest ranked and non-qualified athlete from the previous competition round, which is the semifinal, will progress to the final. This is the only situation in the whole competition rules that allows a replacement of an athlete qualified for the final round. There is none other. The technical delegate will address the incident in an official way and announce it publicly to the involved athlete, NGB, and to the alternate athlete replacing him. It will be also in a written record and delivered and served to all involved parties. So please be careful, keep it in mind. This can happen and it's very serious. The next point is of the same kind. It's a disqualification after an event. Disqualification due to any violation of the Olympic Charter or the World Anti-Doping Code or any other serious breach of an applicable regulation issued by IOC, World Skate, or a National Olympic Committee will be sanctioned by the technical delegate and will be indicated with the invalid results with the marking of disqualified for the bad behavior in all event outputs and also in the WSR, the global rankings. This type of disqualification is applicable from the moment of official competition finish up to the 24 hours after the award ceremony completion. There are other unexpected external situations that may occur during an athlete's performance, preventing the athlete from performing further or causing a performance failure. When a situation like this happens, athlete may request a rerun of their wasted performance. An athlete can request a rerun of his or her single trick attempt or a run performance only when number one situation, conditions of the FOP change dramatically and unexpectedly during the athlete's performance and negatively influence his or her performance. This can be weather. It all of a sudden starts to rain or the wind gets super strong and you guys cannot skate. This is the situation when you can raise the claim. Number two, technical conditions on or around the FOP prevented the athlete from his or her full performance. This means cables, cameras in the way, venue lights went off when it's a little bit dark, concrete of the obstacle chipped out, or things like that. Those are the technical conditions. Number three, third-party interference during the athlete's performance. Like I said, many situations can happen. A security can run on the FOP and just cross your line in your performance. Fans go crazy. They jump over the fences. They just try to get your autograph. This is one of the situations. Or like I said, a photographer, he wants to have the best selfie. He's got a strong flash and he just shoots it straight to your face. Those are the third-party interference situations, and they constitute your right to request a rerun. In the situations that are just described, an athlete must stop during or immediately after his or her interference or change of conditions. He or she must raise a hand or approach the course manager to claim the rerun. He or she must describe the incident and express the request for a new trick attempt or a run. The head judge will decide if the request will be accepted. Reruns can be granted right away or deferred at the head judge discretion. Deferred, I mean, you don't need to go right after. You can continue at the end of the heat or whatever the form of the format is applied at the event. The head judge decision will be communicated by the announcers to the public and describe the reasons and the decision. All right, let's move to the next one. Event schedule alteration. I would say, and I will paraphrase an old military proverb that says, no plan goes according to the plan. And these words of wisdom have been proven so many times. Even if everyone does the best, there are things that simply can happen out of the blue and affect all the plans and event schedules. Therefore, we must be prepared and communicate these situations in a proper and coherent way. It is very important to understand the meaning of these markings of the schedule status and know how to arrange yourselves accordingly to them. First situation, delayed. A delayed marking may occur if a session does not start as scheduled, but should start within the current segment of the same competition day. The new exact start time is yet unknown. All athletes shall stand by in the venue area and wait for the further information. If the delay exceeds the current competition day, the status in the schedule will be changed to rescheduled or canceled. These are usually minor technical issues that can be fixed in a short time or temporary weather conditions that will pass. The next situation is postponed. This means a session did not start as scheduled and has been postponed to a later segment of the same competition day. The new date and start time are yet unknown, but will be announced and published as soon as possible. These are more serious issues that need to be addressed or solved with more time. These issues might be foreseeable, therefore, the postponement. Solution is to move the affected session to later parts of the day schedule and try again. If a postponed session cannot be resumed within the current competition day and the new date and start time are unknown, the status will be changed to rescheduled or canceled. The next one is interrupted. A session may be subject to an unplanned interruption after it has started. The time of resumption is yet unknown, and if the session cannot be completed within the current competition day, the status will be changed to rescheduled or canceled. The results of previously completed athlete performances will be carried forward to the new date and start time. An uncompleted performance will continue from the point of interruption or will be granted with the rerun status. The technical delegate decides the utmost fair option to the affected athletes, considering each and every individual situation. The next point is rescheduled. A session may be rescheduled if it cannot be held at the originally scheduled time or date. The new date and start time are known. If it's impossible to reschedule a session or a round of competition within a certain time frame, the status may be changed to canceled. And that's the last point, the canceled. An even phase that cannot be rescheduled within the available time in the competition schedule, including the weather reserved days, is canceled. In such case, the World Skate Technical Delegate must follow the steps of the event contingency protocol and decide if results can be validated and announced. This brings us to the next chapter, the contingency situations. Contingency plans are being applied in situations when it is clear that the event will no longer be possible to finish as planned. All alternate options have been used or are no longer suitable. In this case, the technical delegate, after a consultation with the event director, may choose to announce an alternate program or policy for the competition. This is called the contingency plan. And what are the possible reasons for a contingency plan to be applied? Well, they are of three main kinds. The first one, venue or FOP related. FOP structural issues or potential structural integrity risks. This means something is broken and it is hard or impossible to repair it. FOP rolling surface alteration. Something changed or altered the quality of the FOP surface that it doesn't provide a safe or suitable quality. Public spectator behavior causing organizational issues. The fans are going crazy. That is impossible to manage them any longer with the event security. Even this can happen. Then we have the general safety and security issues. Anything that is causing substantial hazard to the athletes and event staff on the safety and security basis. Something that cannot be managed by the designated event security staff or provisions. Power outage, we can really do anything without electricity. Significant transport disruption of athletes and officials. This means that there could be an ongoing strike or a riot in the hosting city that prevents the athletes and their staff from getting into the venue, either on time or completely. We are living in the crazy times and many things can happen. That's why we even listing this alternative to the competition rules. The alterations in the schedule, reaching the 10 p.m. or very late hour status. We are trying our best to make it possible. And if not absolutely necessary, we don't want athletes to compete late at night, and we will do our best to prevent it from happening. Now, the next chapter is the weather related situations that constitute the contingency planning, meaning the performance is affected by strong winds because the nature could be a very powerful opponent. FOP frequently gets wet due to the rain, regardless of the amount of rain. Every time we dry the FOP, it starts raining again. It's like a wet Groundhog Day mode on repeat. And you know, guys, we experienced this in Rio. We can also have a high chances of lightning routes occurrences on the FOP and in the venue. This is during the storm and lightnings that occur with them. They are very dangerous, and especially in the urban areas where a lot of metal parts are all around the place. It is very risky. So that's one of those things. Air quality, low temperatures, or intense heat that causes potential health hazards to the athletes. That's another point. Sometimes the gentle breeze may bring something that is not too good for our lungs and bodies. Sometimes the sun is too hot, and altogether with humidity, it just makes it almost impossible to perform. We take it into the consideration. Natural disasters or other force majeures alerts released by the local authorities. I think I don't need to expand on this one because everybody knows what an earthquake is or a tsunami when it happens. We all seen it in the news, and I feel sorry for those who experience it on their own. The next area is the sport technical equipment related issues. A major failure occurs in the scoring result system. As you know, even Google got hacked, and this means that it can happen to us. We do our best to prevent it, but nobody knows the future. We have to count with it. Another thing is a critical accident involving an athlete on the FOP happens. And this is something that you athletes should be familiar with it. We said that we are trying our best to prevent any risks, but like I said, injuries can happen to everyone, and some of them are less serious than others. We are all involved in the sport of skateboarding. Injuries are part of the sport, no matter how many precautions are in the place. When a severe situation like this happens, it is affecting everyone involved, even the schedule. Please show solidarity and act accordingly with your support and understanding. So these are the three main areas for contingency situations that cause the contingency competition format being applied. The form of the selected contingency plan depends on the round or phases of the event that have been already completed before the interruption and on the remaining parts that still need to be accomplished. The technical delegate must provide equal chances to all participating athletes within the applied contingency plan. This means setting up a minimum number of run performances needed to be finished by all athletes as for the park discipline. And in the Olympic street format, the 2-5-4 format, where scores from runs and tricks are added and counted together until the third single trick attempt, which is the first attempt allowing a drop score, the contingency plan must consider only performance rounds completed by all athletes. The main goal of any contingency plan is to complete any unfinished event phase on the utmost fair basis so the event results can be validated and later announced. Only in this way it will be possible to allocate the points and award them to the athletes. And by doing so, the event can and will be successfully finished. The application of this contingency plan format must be announced and defined in detail at least 1 hour before the start of the affected competition phase. Well, if worst comes to worst, and there is no way an event can continue in a normal and scheduled way, or even with the contingency plan being applied, there is a procedure in place that validates the results of the previously completed event rounds or event phases. This procedure is to validate the event results and announce the final event ranking. Only when the event results are announced and published, the ranking points can be allocated and assigned to all participating athletes. Remember that, guys. So, how are the validating methods? In case the run tricks cannot be all run in street in a non-Olympic street format, at least one run must be completed to validate round results in the semifinal and final. A minimum of one run must be completed to the final round results. In jam session format, all athletes must have completed their jam session to validate the round results. In the Olympic 2-5-4 street format, if a contingency competition format has been announced, runs and individual trick attempts must be completed to validate the round results. In a park discipline, in the park qualification, semifinal, and a final round, a minimum of 2 rounds must be completed to validate the round results. Now, the second situation, if the final cannot take place or cannot be completed, the results of an event can be considered final and used to distribute medals and diplomas if all the competitors, preceded athletes included, had an equal chance to compete in the previous competition rounds, which means at least the semifinal. And I guess that's it for the validating of the results and the contingency plan. Thank you very much, Shiran. I will pass the floor back to you.
And thank you for your highlighting all these learnings and news coming along with the competition rules. A lot of stuff, but as we see, a lot of stuff that makes sense to us all. So Paula, validation request. Can you enlighten us on that one?
Sure, Shiran. As
Thanks.
you can imagine, publishing documents with accurate and correct information is crucial for the successful organization of any event. Athletes, their teams, announcers, judges, ITOs, and the event staff or the TV broadcasting teams need valid data to work with so they can correctly process it. This might seem like an easy task that does not subject the event organization with any difficulties or challenges in the process, but it is quite the opposite. Please keep in mind that working with a large number of humans in a highly dynamic and constantly moving environment is a challenge of big proportions. So many things can happen unexpectedly, especially when you practice a sport activity, and much more when you participate in an international event in a foreign country. People tend to make mistakes when exposed to stress. Sometimes even the technology breaks down or needs to be rebooted. Mentioning these factors and examples is not to justify mistakes and make you accept them, not at all. It is to understand, and there are many factors that might have contributed or caused the issues. And usually mistakes are not done intentionally or for personal reasons. It simply happens. Please make sure that when you register online via the registration platform to the event, your information is correct, valid, and used in the same way as on the previous event. Double check on yourself. Once you come to the event registration, please make sure you review your information with the competition secretary and the registration team to correct them if needed or just to confirm it. If a mistake occurs after the registration, the best approach to rectify or correct it is to act professionally and provide all the needed information and data in a format that can be easily understood and processed by the event staff in charge. A last minute change of a name in the event materials affects many teams of the event's organization, starting from the materials for the live broadcast teams, the whole judging panel, the course manager, announcer, and other ITOs. It is time consuming and therefore it must be done in the right way. To prevent any further mistakes or changes, start lists and results lists are the documents that present the most implications for any athlete. Respect the following procedure described next. So I will explain the necessary steps and protocolar procedures to conduct. So during an ongoing event, the correct way to go is in a written form to the hands of the competition secretary at the accreditation desk or via an official email address to WorldSkate Sports Department. After a start list release or a partial event results announcement and publication, but you have to do it not later than before the start of the following competition rounds or first practice group session. After the completion of the event, you must do it in a written form or via an official email address to WorldSkate Sports Department within a maximum of 5 days of event completion and event final results publication. And after the release of the overall Olympic World Skateboarding Ranking update, you must do it in a written form or via an official email address to the World Skate Sports Department within a maximum of 3 days after the ranking update release. And that's it. Shiran, back to you.
Thank you, Paula. So a lot of requests, but I think we now know why. So, Martin, Paula, the ranking review request. What is this all about?
All right, Shiran, thank you. I will start on this one. Ranking review request. As you know, one of the most important overall results of the Olympic qualification season are the Olympic World Skate Ranking, also known as OWSR or WSRs. Olympic World Skate Rankings is the official ranking for all athletes participating in any sanctioned event, starting from national championships up to the world championships. The resulting ranking will provide the grounds for the Tokyo Olympic Games athlete nominations. The process of the global ranking computation has been published to all NGBs, and it can be found on the WorldSkate/skateboarding website. Please look at them. I advise you to do it. On the WorldSkate website, you can also find and see the current rankings of every participating athlete. With this being said, the importance of correct information being presented is vital. Wrong data being submitted and included into the ranking can create false results or duplicity of athlete entries. To prevent mistakes like this from happening, it is crucial to provide correct data and use the same formats of names and information at all times. For this case, WorldSkate is providing the WorldSkate ID to all registered athletes and NGBs when entering or submitting data into the registration system. This should limit the potential mistakes. However, they can still happen. The precautions must start at the very beginning, from the platform registration, guys, to the event registration, followed by the checking of the event results, to the final publication and inclusion into the global rankings. It is very important that athletes and NGBs and their representatives visit the global ranking page after the inclusion of a new event results and check on their presented data and information. This procedure should be done on a regular basis and repeatedly. In case of a mistake, athletes or legal guardians shall contact their NGB immediately and request them to correct the data. NGBs shall subsequently contact World Skate with the official request called Ranking Review Request, the triple R. With the
Yes.
upcoming restart of the Olympic qualification season and the approaching Tokyo Olympic Games, WorldSkate will communicate every new inclusion to the global ranking and ask for the verification. Deadline will be set for this procedure and the submissions process in order to prevent delayed and later released documents from being released. After this set deadline, changes will be made, but will not be taken into account for the affected event releases. So please, like I said, visit the page, check on the data, check on your status, and let us know as soon as possible within the deadlines. WorldSkate kindly asks all athletes and their NGBs to verify every submitted information. Frequently check the ranking and the results and follow the releases to prevent or minimize the occurrence of the eventual mistakes. Now, after saying this, I would like to pass the floor back to Paula to explain you how to proceed with the triple R, the ranking review request. Paula, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Martin. Yes, so the ranking review request must include the subject of the request, event name, athlete's full name, athlete's nationality, ID number, division category, male or female, discipline, whether if it was a street or park, time of occurrence, including number of the competition practice group or number of the competition heat, number of the event round, hour and date, type of release document, whether it was a start list, results, practice schedule, etc. And if it was in the ranking, the rankings update versions release date, event name, and athlete's ranking position. Description of the error, including details of the released or published error in summarizing description, preferably accompanied with screenshot or photo attachment, website address or link reference, and the correction request. What should be rectified and what is supposed to be the correct version. That's it for the ranking review request submission. Shiran, back to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Paula, for highlighting us on the different information we need on WorldSkate side for the request. So we are coming to an end of this webinar. It was really nice to have you all here. And as it runs a little late, it's like a 2-hour webinar. I think it's a good idea to wrap up all your questions you may send us via email, and we will take our time and respond it on the following up email pretty soon. I really want to have a real big thank you, or just saying thank you to everyone who was here, and saying especially to Amelia, thank you for enlightening us on all these different things you are doing with the Athletes Commission, bringing in your experience, showing that the athletes are the vital part of the events we are doing and the contest. Thank you for that. And I hope you're having a good time over there in USA right now.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being a part of the process and helping to convey the voice of the skaters.
So do we see you on the next contest, YouTube? How is it?
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting one to finally resume qualifiers after a long 1.5-year pause.
Yeah.
So thank you for all you guys do to help make these events possible.
We are looking out to see some tech there from you. Thank you. for being here. Thank you, Paula. Hope you're having a good time over there. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Martin, for being here.
Thank you, everyone, for being there.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If any questions, please check the emails, check sports department, check our homepage, check the blog, and see you really soon. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Hopefully everyone has a chance to skate today and
Yes.
this weekend and this week and this month and this year. Get out there and shred if you can.